ProStar Holdings is a software as a service company. The company provides precision mapping, also cloud mobile solutions designed to capture and record and display the precise locations of subsurface assets, including pipelines, buried utilities, things like that. And with me is the CEO, Paige Tucker, to explain more about ProStar. So, Paige, let's start. What problems are you solving at this company?
Well, it's actually a global problem, and that is that around the world, our infrastructure is becoming dilapidated and in serious need of repair and replacement. And when I say critical infrastructure, most people think of roads, bridges, and highways. But there's also another critical infrastructure that is also in serious need of repair and replacement, and it's our underground infrastructure, which includes a vast network of utilities and pipelines.
I feel like most of the public doesn't even know how bad shape this is in because we don't really see it. But give me a sense of how old some of this is and what are the potential problems with that?
Yeah, it's the old out of sight, out of mind. So, for example, here in the United States, just to put things into perspective, we have 2.5 million miles of paved roads that crisscross our nation. But we have 35 million miles of buried utilities, of which the majority of those utilities and pipelines were put into the ground between 50 to 100 years ago, well before we had any type of compliance or regulation or oversight. No one was really concerned about where these pipelines and utilities were being placed into the ground, and they were never intended to support the level of population growth that we've experienced over the past 100 years.
So this is a danger, actually, I would think, to the public.
It's a serious risk to the public and also to our environment.
Okay. So tell me, what are the barriers to entry in terms of what it takes for you to be able to map these?
Well, as far as barriers to entry, we like to think of ourselves as the first mover into this industry. And to prove that, we have 21 patents that have been issued. So it shows that we are the pioneer. So we've been at this for several years. And you have to create really a consortium, like a network of various service providers in order to address this issue. So we've designed a software application that addresses the issue, but we also have several partners out there. Like, for example, we work with the leading manufacturers that provide the GPS equipment, which gives you the precise geospatial location. But we also work with the leading manufacturers of the equipment that are required in order to identify where the utilities and pipelines are buried in the ground.
I was just going to ask that. Do you work with governments, companies, both? In order to accomplish what you want to accomplish, what does it take to get there?
Yeah, again, you have to work with a variety of what we consider to be our business partners. So we work with government agencies, we have Fortune 500 construction companies, we have some of the largest engineering and surveying firms, not just in the United States, but in other parts of the world, including in Canada and in Australia. And what they do is they provide to us specifically the workflow processes and business practices that we have to develop into our software solution in order to address the problems that they're facing and also to enhance their workflow processes, make their work more efficient, reduce costs, and also, as you mentioned, reduce risks that they often faced out on these construction projects by not knowing where these utilities and pipelines are buried. If you're doing construction and you don't know where a utility or pipeline is buried and you hit the utility or pipeline, some really bad things can happen. I mean, you can have serious flooding, you could have businesses that are interrupted, you could also have dangerous petroleum products that are seeping into our water systems. But in worst case scenario, for example, if you hit a high pressure gas line, there could be a high probability of an explosion. And when there's an explosion, serious injury is incurred either by the public, the worker, or you could have loss of life.
Yeah, no, and I can imagine how that would make a project much more expensive with litigation and everything else and just in the time lost. And so who would your main customers be?
So anyone that's involved in construction of critical infrastructure. So again, really large construction companies, small construction companies, medium-sized construction companies, the engineering and surveying firms, that are often contracted to identify where the utilities and pipelines are buried, municipalities, mining companies. We even have universities that are utilizing our solution. Really, anyone that needs to understand infrastructure surrounding them, and in particular, being able to identify and manage where the utilities and pipelines are buried below the ground.
And why would these customers choose you?
Well, I think we're recognized as the leader in the industry, and our solution not only provides the precision, but it's also very intuitive, easy to use, and it's priced right, which is probably the main thing. We like to think our pricing is disruptive, but the most important thing is our app is just simple to use. It works on any standard mobile device, including the smartphone device you probably have within arm's reach. You simply download the app, and as I mentioned, it's very easy and intuitive. So we can train you on it in a matter of a few hours, and you're up and running, and you can address the issues that the industry's been facing for decades.
Yeah, very interesting. So what's ahead in your future?
Well, we're at the point right now where our product is fully developed, it's mature, in technology terms, it's off-the-shelf software. And we've worked with, very reputable companies, government agencies around the world to be able to get to the point where we are just now ready to fully execute. And that's what we're doing. We're ramping up our sales and our marketing. And now it's all about just, making our footprint around the world much larger and onboarding more clients.
Yeah, and of course, we had the infrastructure bill. Do you expect to benefit from that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure everyone's familiar with the infrastructure bill, which was about $1.2 trillion. Several hundreds billions of dollars is actually earmarked specifically for infrastructure, including the improvement of our roads and bridges and highways. But in addition to that, it's also for the improvement and expansion of water systems and sewage systems, as well as expansion of broadband. And these two infrastructures, the above ground infrastructure and the below ground infrastructure, are connected. So you can't work on one or the other without impacting each other. So with all of this construction that's going to take place, it's going to be really important and critical that we identify where these utilities and pipelines are located to a very high level of precision. If I basically did a lobotomy on the earth and I removed all the pavement, you might be surprised, based on 35 million miles of buried utilities, that they're overlapping. I always refer to it as a spaghetti bowl of utilities and pipelines that have been haphazardly thrown into the ground over the past 100 years. And we really don't know where these utilities and pipelines are located with any level of accuracy. And so our system is designed, as you mentioned, to capture, record, and display where these utilities and pipelines are buried down to the centimeter.
Fascinating and really important work. I don't think people even realize, what kind of shape this stuff is in and how crucial it is really for our economy and for the future. So best of luck, Paige. Thank you for joining us.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.